Hello everyone, my name is Mark and welcome to the Cycling Academy. Except it's not the Cycling Academy, this is my other channel called All the Things, where I do all the things that I do when I'm not cycling. So a while back I bought a project car. It is a, like I said on my Instagram post, it's a 20-year-old German convertible that's been neglected and it doesn't have a service history. So yeah, what could possibly go wrong? So what we have here is a 2004 model BMW Z4. It is the one with the 2.5 liter straight six, and of course, very much important, it has the manual transmission. Okay guys, it's Mark from the past here, and before I start with this little project, I desperately need to take this old steering wheel off, and as well as the gear knob to have those refurbished. So let's see if we can get that done. Apparently it's quite easy, but I wouldn't bet on it. Okay, about half an hour later it popped out on one side, so now it's just rinse and repeat. Get a project car, they said. It will be fun, they said. I'm just gonna pause the video right here, because it turns out the steering wheel was indeed the easy part. Same cannot be said about the gear knob. That quite literally did end up fighting back. So I'm not going to say much more about it. I'm just going to insert a little photo and you are welcome to draw your own conclusions. So these cars are getting sort of a bit more sought after lately, because sort of all the newer cars tend to, because of the EU regulations about emissions and those things, the newer cars tend to have smaller and smaller engines. And I like a big engine in a small car, which is exactly what this is. So the reason I bought this car is these engines are actually known for their reliability, which is a funny thing to say from BMW, but it is a reliable engine, hence why I took a bit of a gamble on buying this car. So the plan is to first see if I can get it mechanically sort of in a good condition, because at the moment the engine is not firing on all of the cylinders. So first things first is we're going to change the oil in the engine. Going to put in some new spark plugs, air filter, oil filter, just a sort of normal service. And then if the car is running nicely after that, then I will go full in with the detailing, give the car a full polish, and yeah, see if I can make it sort of mechanically mechanically good, and then cosmetically as good as it can get. Okay, so very important when you drain the oil on your car is actually to start the car beforehand and to just let the engine get sort of up to temperature. That way, because oil gets a bit thinner when it heats up, the oil drains a lot more efficiently. Okay, there she goes. So I'm hoping you can hear that. It's really not running that smooth at the moment. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's not firing on all cylinders. So yeah, let's give it a couple of minutes and then we'll drain the oil. Okay, so the oil is busy draining. I'm just gonna let it run for a few minutes so I can get everything out of there. Now I'm gonna remove the oil filter. There we go. Okay, so the air filter is actually, sorry, the oil filter is pretty much as bad as it gets. I haven't seen an oil filter that's in this bad shape. But this is obviously a very good indication that the car hasn't been serviced in a very long time. On that note, I did do a thorough inspection of the oil that came out of the engine, and apart from the oil being quite dirty, there were absolutely no metal shavings or no weird foreign objects inside the oil, which is always a good indication that the engine is healthy on the inside. So to replace the the oil filter, you also replace this little O-ring that seals the cap. So first I'm going to take that off. You can see how flat and how square it actually is. It's supposed to be round so that it can seal nicely. So let's go on with the new O-ring. And there we go, in place, and now we can put in the new oil filter. This is how it is supposed to look when it's new. Here we go. I'm gonna take the engine cover off so that I can take the ignition coils out and replace the spark plugs. There we go. This is our an ignition coil, looks like. Okay. Okay, so I was just getting worried because these old spark plugs weren't actually looking all that bad, if I'm completely honest. But then I removed this one, and this one clearly had some blow-by from the piston. So I am very much hoping that this, the fact that this wasn't tightened properly, might be the cause of the engine running a little bit rough or misfiring. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. So I'm replacing all of them, and we'll see when the new ones are nice and tight and in. See how it runs then. So now I'm actually going to replace the oil. I'm actually going to replace the air filter. It's probably the easiest job to do when you're servicing your car, depending on what car it is, obviously. But these ones, as far as I know, just sit here on the top. It's just a couple of clips you need to unclip, and then the housing will come right off. And you can take out the old air filter, which, if the oil filter is anything to go by, would also be quite gross. So there you go, and in with the brand new one. Actually, while I was going through the car, I noticed that there's a little crack. Well, when I say little crack, I mean a massive crack on the one, the rubber boot that goes to the intake manifold. So I did order a rubber boot, so I'm gonna put that in. Old intake pipe, new intake pipe. Okay, so before we go on, this time it's marked from the future. So while I was busy in the sort of engine bay of the car, I found another part that's broken. It's called the Daa Valve. It's a common known failure point on these old BMW engines. It's basically just a flap on the intake that regulates where the airflow comes from. And you can see here on the old unit, this flap is just completely loose. It's not supposed to do that. On the new one, the spring is works on a little spring system, so when you turn it, it springs back, and it's got a little hole there that if you plug it, it's not supposed to spring back, and then when you release, it springs back. So yeah, just had to order this part, and it actually arrived quite a bit sooner than I expected. Okay, so we have drained the oil, replaced the oil filter, replaced the air filter, replaced the spark plugs, and obviously put the oil drain plug back in, very important. So now we're gonna put some brand new oil in the engine, and then cross our fingers and hope it runs a bit smoother. Okay, moment of truth. I really hope the car is running a bit smoother after this, so I guess we'll see. It's always a bit stressful starting the car again after you've done some work to it, even if it's only like an oil change and spark plugs like I did here. And you can sort of hear right about now, you can still clearly hear the car's misfiring. So all of that effort did not solve the issue, and for now it was time to head back to the drawing board. Okay, so it's now the second day of working on project Z4. Unfortunately, replacing the spark plugs and servicing the car did not fix our rough idle or misfire situation. So that means it's most probably going to be the ignition coils or the coil packs. So in order to diagnose which one it is, you leave the engine running and then you plug them out one by one. So the idea is if you plug one out that is working, then you will clearly hear that there's going to be another piston misfiring. So you will hear a change in the running of the engine. Whereas if you unplug one that isn't working, then there will be no change, and then you will know that is the the ignition coil that is indeed faulty. So we went ahead and did exactly that, and wouldn't you know it, the first ignition coil we pulled turned out to be the broken one. So we simply went ahead and bought one new ignition coil, installed it, and we had one smooth firing 6-cylinder BMW. As you might imagine, by this stage I was one happy backyard mechanic. I had to take the car for a little spin before we started on the next part of the process. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, have a look at the second one. It should be dropping soon. We'll go into detail a bit on sort of deep cleaning the car, giving it a full polish and sort of paint restoration. So yeah, keep your eyes out for that one, and we'll see you in the next one. So handbrake werk so lekker nie, so kan hom nie so lekker park of afsit nie. Ons reg.